How do you navigate the toxic aspects of the video game hobby? That's a great question, Christopher. He's asking about people have very strong opinions about sealed collecting, shelf collectors, and reselling. So, Christopher, that's an excellent question as I'm prepping some of these games here. The interesting thing is the main channel has kind of two different crowds that it caters to. One is the reselling crowd, and one is the video game crowd, which has, we'll say, at best, mixed opinions on me. By the way, later in this video, I've got 19 questions that you guys asked on my last community post. Thank you so much for those, and they are all hot topics and hot controversial takes. And I'm just going to share all with you guys in this video. I hope that you really enjoy it, and I appreciate you asking. In my experience, and this may step on some toes. I don't think people on this channel really care because you guys are part of the core. But in my experience, the reselling community tends to be much more positive and collaborative than the gaming community. I'll just say it like
ouch! My toes.
I encounter. I'm stepping on Spanky's toes here. I encounter a lot more toxicity and gatekeeping and just mean-spiritedness from these kinds of like elitist video gamers, which is such a weird thing to say. Like, even the concept of trying to gatekeep a status as a gamer, you know that person's life is probably not in a great place. And that's honestly a big part of how I deal with silly criticism and people, trying to shut me down, is just remembering that like nobody hates you who's ahead of you. And if you're in a position where you're leaving nasty comments on someone's video and going to Reddit and talking about how, they're everything wrong with your hobby, you're probably in a really bad place in life. And so I do my best in my better moments to kind of lead with empathy towards my haters, or I'll just kind of clown on them and, make a joke about it on the main channel. Because that's also, in reality, kind of a coping mechanism. Most people know that psychologically, we are much more predisposed to remember criticism than people saying nice things about us. So I think the ratio is 7-1, that you have to get 7 positive comments to offset 1 negative one. And when you're growing a YouTube channel, especially, that's a pretty tough reality. Like, it's really hard. Even if you're, like, I try to make my channel as positive as I possibly can. And like, it's not at all about drama or stirring the pot or like making excuses or like calling people out. Like, it's very much geared towards education and inspiration and just goofing around. And yet I definitely don't have a 7-1 positive to negative comment ratio. So it is something that I think a lot of people who are growing channels do have to reckon with. But great question, Christopher. Our next one comes from ex-Black Belt. How do you feel about flipping or reselling newer or limited products? Is it too close to scalping, or is it not a problem? It's something I've struggled with for my reselling, and I want to hear your take. That's a great question as well, because I think people in general, there's a general sort of collective consensus that scalping is bad. Scalping, it's an activity, it's a kind of reselling that just makes people feel bad. My wife experienced this when she was trying to get Taylor Swift tickets, which are very, you guys know. You have to pay astronomical resale prices for them if you're not lucky enough to get into the queue and be able to buy it, which luckily she was. But I had to ask myself as I read this question, what is the exact difference between scalping and reselling? Because it's very dubious and there are always counterexamples. But I think in order to be considered scalping, 3 things have to be true. One is the product has to be brand new. And when I say brand new, I mean released within the last, year or so. Because there are brand new products like a new old stock vintage knife that if you found that at a yard sale, it wouldn't be considered scalping even though it's brand new and you're selling it for above original retail, which is the second qualification. You have to be selling something at above the original sticker priced. And number 3, I actually don't remember. At least those 2 things. What's a counterexample of something that is you're selling it above retail price and it's a new product that is not scalping? I don't know if I can think of one. I think those may be the biggest 2 things. I try to avoid scalping whenever possible. I can't think. I will be honest with you guys, I dabbled a little bit in concert ticket flipping, which is definitely scalping, in my early resale days when we just were really desperate for money, and I was part of this cook group, this Discord that like flipped all kinds of stuff. Since then, since I have had the luxury of choice and have been able to choose my business model, I really haven't gotten back into it at all. And the way around it, the workaround that I found in the pandemic was because I did have access to new switches, like I knew when they were restocking and stuff. I still felt icky about selling them at above retail, so I made trade posts on Facebook Marketplace, and without exception, everybody who traded with me was really happy to do it. So I think that's kind of a happy medium. But I agree, ex-black belt, with your kind of intuition that this feels a little bit icky. So I personally stick to kinds of reselling that are 99% of what we sell is used. But when we do sell products that are brand new and sealed, like they've been out for a while, and so I wouldn't personally consider that scalping. Maybe people will disagree. You guys can let me know in the comments. Monado Max, a longtime channel supporter, also has a great Switch-related channel himself, if you want to check it out, says he would love a reseller's point of view on limited run and whether it's bad for the collecting scene. They used to do their releases in batches of 5,000, like hard cap 5,000 units per game. At this point, they have a pre-order system, and they will produce as many pre-orders as people make times 2. So they tend to be available for much longer. They don't tend to hold their value as well. Max, I wouldn't say that it's bad for collectors. I think that having more physical copies available at an affordable price is good for collectors in general. It is bad for people who want their games to go up in value over time. And I would definitely not recommend limited run games as an investment to anyone, not only because their games are much more highly produced now, but also because they are notorious for reprinting their most popular titles to make them more widely available, which can destroy the value of the initial copies. Celeste was one that is still, I think it still goes for 100 or a little bit above, but it used to be like a $200+ game before they reprinted it. So do not recommend them as an investment. They're great collection pieces. J-Tier Jan, I don't know how to say that, 007. Could Spanky do the reselling job on his own? Does he maybe have a side job reselling something else? You want to go into selfie mode and answer that?
Yes and yes. I could do it, and I do have a job on the side.
All right, 2 for 2 lies coming out of Spank.
Yep.
Hey, have you flipped anything?
No.
No, not a single thing. I would say you definitely would have a better shot at it now than you ever have.
Yeah.
Like, the skill of being able to, like, look up solds on eBay and is really kind of all you need. Like, you know how to ship stuff, you know more or less how to list stuff. eBay is definitely, I would say, the hardest platform to do good listings on. Anyways, I think he is definitely better suited now to it than he previously would have been. If he tried to go full-time today, would it work? I would root for it.
Definitely.
I would root for it. I'll say that. Okay, we did Christopher's already. How do you break... This is funny. How do you break it to someone softly, if you do, at either a yard sale or mom and pop shop if you see something severely overpriced? And on the opposite end, if you see something severely underpriced that you aren't purchasing, do you give them a heads up ever? That is a great question. How I break it to them is I say, good luck. I do not try to haggle them down and say, like, hey, a good example of this is I have a video called, like, the craziest yard sale price I've ever seen, where this guy wanted $1,000 for a backwards compatible PS3 that people still bring up to this day because it was such a funny interaction. Those things, if you guys don't know, go for like, I don't know, $350 or something like that. And my response to that was not to, like, some people will pull up eBay solds and be like, hey, this is what this thing actually sold for. I don't know what you were looking at. In that case, even if it's something that I would normally want to buy, if it's a delta of like 3x or more, and sometimes it is, I will just say in an earnest way, not in a sarcastic way, hey, wish you the best of luck with it. It's not for me. And I don't want to fight about it. For stuff that's significantly underpriced, normally, if I want to buy it, I normally will not say anything. Maybe that's an ethical gray area, but unless it's like, it would have to be a significant difference, like probably more than 10x. Like they have something for $10 and in reality it's worth 1,000. I would probably, in that situation, I personally would not tell them and then try to buy it. I might buy it and then pay extra because I just kind of feel bad about it. Like I might take it to the car and then come back and say like, hey, didn't realize it, but this is worth a lot more, so just wanted to give this to you and, give them a little pleasant surprise. I don't know, maybe I would say something. I tend to be very upfront. If someone asks me, hey, what is this worth? I think this is actually a question that someone else asked. Pretty much any time, no matter if it's a yard sale or a vendor or whatever, like, I'll tell them. I don't ever try to, like, tell little white lies or, like, obscure the truth or anything or say, like, oh, it might be worth a good bit. Like, I'll just say, according to what I'm seeing, it's worth, like, $100. I have an online store. I would love to use this as inventory for. I'd love to pay $40 so I could more or less double up, after the fees and shipping and stuff. But, if you want to keep it for that price, that is reasonable. And maybe I'd eventually go up to like $50. I think that one of my better qualities is being very upfront and honest about stuff, like in my personal life and in my business. And I found in general that also helps you in business because people know that you're a trustworthy person. That said, maybe I'm still a scumbag for not immediately telling someone that their $1 item is worth 1,000. Maybe I would. I'm not actually sure what I would do in that situation. But I've seen really good results and really good repeat business from people knowing that I'm the kind of person. Actually, in a P-Sale video not too long ago, someone had in their $5 bin a slime game, like a Dragon Quest game, Rocket Slime, I think it was. And I was like, hey, just to let you know, this game is worth like 30 or 40. You had it in the $5 bin. If you want to price it up, I can't remember if he actually did or not. But I found those kinds of little gestures go a long way, especially with someone that you want to do repeat business with. Jay Payne says, I'm fully disabled and have very limited mobility. However, I do have nearly full function of my arms and hands. Would it be possible / worth it to still get into reselling strictly from home? That's a really interesting question. I would say, first of all, thank you so much for watching. The biggest resource that I would recommend, there's a YouTube channel by a guy named Pick and Roll. Incredible name, given that he's in a wheelchair and is also a picker. So he'll go out to the thrifts and, obviously has similar limited mobility issues, but he still crushes it. Does a really great job. I have to be honest, I completely take my functional legs for granted. And as I read this comment, I was trying to think about, our business model and how possible it would be. The best part of it would be that at this point we have people shipping us. All this stuff came from viewers. This is all viewer collection or fellow reseller viewers who are selling us stuff through our buy list. So that business model is very mobility friendly. Conventions, I would say, are somewhat mobility friendly usually because there's not a ton of going to different stops and getting in and out of cars and stuff. But I'll be honest, I'm not the best one to ask for that. The only other model that I do know of that a decent number of resellers do use is online arbitrage. So finding clearance products and stuff that's on sale and stacking discounts online, having it shipped to your door, and then selling things individually on eBay or Amazon or Poshmark. I don't know how widespread that model is, but I know especially during Black Friday and the month of November when a lot of sales are going on, there definitely is potential there. So sorry I couldn't be more helpful, but love that that's where your head's at and you're in the realm of looking for opportunities rather than making excuses, even with the challenges that you do have. That's inspiring to me. Delwyn says, been watching you for years. I still go back to your old videos. I'm sorry. And still wait for new uploads on Sundays. Again, I'm sorry. Have not been doing as well with that, Delwyn. Do you think you'll do a new series after the Switch Challenge is done? That's a great question. And I'll be honest with you, Delwyn. I don't know. I think a year or so ago, I would have definitely said yes. At this point, I'm thinking a little bit more. My mind is kind of more on trying different stuff. I would love to focus a little bit more on like the business aspect, like kind of lean into the resale of Phoenix Resale. Because with all the collecting challenges, I've gotten away from that a little bit. I have this series idea of going around and interviewing $1 million resellers, people who have sold at least $1 million in inventory. If I could find some that sell $1 million a year, that'd be incredible. And just kind of trying to learn from them and showing with their different business models, whether it's like Pokemon cards or sneakers or vintage clothing or things like that, how you can be successful in different niches. I'll still keep doing like the convention videos and the large buys and the stuff like that, but doing another mission switch would just be like, it would be a really high commitment, and that's not something that's top of mind for me for 2024. Sorry, I feel like I really let you down with that answer, Delwyn, but appreciate you sticking with us nonetheless. Is reselling really that's not really pronounceable. Is reselling really a viable option for a primary income? Could the average Joe make a decent living reselling full-time? I fully believe yes. The best example, the most inspiring resource that I see for that is a channel called Daily Refinement. He has this whole community of resellers that like is very tactical and focuses on just like getting a little bit better every day and how you can optimize your specific area and situation and niche to achieve the best results, both for sourcing and listing and everything. And there are all kinds of people in all walks of life that are in that group and go from like hobby to part-time to full-time. And it's really cool to see. And I have people talk to me all the time at conventions saying, hey, I started watching your channel and started flipping games because of you, which, first of all, if you're someone who's done that, appreciate that a ton. That's maybe the most fulfilled I ever feel in this whole job, is like knowing that other people are using this to make money. So I would absolutely say yes. I want to make a whole video dedicated to what separates people who succeed from people who ultimately fail in reselling, because I think that would just bring a lot of value to the people who are like you and kind of thinking about dipping their toes in. Domga says, worst and best thing about your list-based open request system. Okay, so the buy list system. This is something that I wanted to talk about because our November numbers just dropped, a couple weeks ago or whatever. Would you pull that up, actually? I want to show the ones that are highlighted in green are all of our new titles that we like either increased the price, like if the price is highlighted. We increased our prices on a ton of stuff this month, and also added a pretty good number of titles to every section. So if you guys have not checked that out recently, you may want to, especially our handheld prices. Almost all of them went up because we're just really trying to stay in stock all the way through Q4 and January. I really want to get that to the point where like people just kind of automatically, by the way, I'll try to remember to put the email right here. If not, it'll be in the description where you can apply for access to the buy list. I'm trying to get it to the point where people get in a quality handheld, a Nintendo handheld, and are just like, okay, the condition's good, it's working good, it's going to Phoenix Resale, like just instantly. And you can only do that by offering really, really good prices. So our margins on those are pretty slim. That's part of the reason why you might remember in the last video, our overall net margins on the business are lower than they used to be. They dropped down from like 30-ish% to 15%. Because we're trying to pay so well to the people who are partnering with us on the buy list. But that's honestly the best part, like getting to work with more of you guys and like buy so much of our inventory from you has been really rewarding, and we really like it. The worst part has definitely been the learning curve, because so many people have come onto the program of getting people to understand the exact condition parameters. Because the numbers that we have on there, we can only pay if games and consoles are in like 9 out of 10 condition or better. That's how we get the premium for them on Amazon. And a lot of people just haven't, like, they'll ignore the condition guidelines or maybe just not think that they're that important. And we'll have to make, like, they'll send us a whole stack like this of games that, like, the discs are scratched and they're super dirty with retail stickers on them, and we have to put a bunch of like elbow grease into getting them Amazon ready, and as a result we have to make a bunch of deductions on the invoice, which the first time someone's doing business with us, we usually will like go easy on them and not really do as many as we normally would. But that's the worst part, is just feeling like I never want people to feel like, okay, I signed up for one thing and like I got a different price than I was expecting. I want to under promise and over deliver rather than the other way around. So there's just kind of a learning curve when people are just coming into the program. But I've tried to talk about it enough on this channel that like people kind of know what to expect. Like you guys can see like the quality on these games, like they just look good. And a lot of the ones that people will send us, unfortunately, just don't look that good. So that's the worst part. When is it time to open up a shop, online or brick and mortar? For us, I'm guessing that question is mostly for us with our business model. It's not, no. No. I don't want to do that. People ask me that all the time, but dude, like, I was talking a lot in the last video about my philosophy of keeping overhead and obligations, financial obligations, as tiny as possible to minimize risk in an ever-changing market. And that is way harder with brick and mortar. As far as an online store goes, like, it would be possible and it'd be nice to like not pay fees on everything that we're able to sell through there. And we personally would probably be able to drive enough traffic to it that like it might eventually kind of be worth it. But I don't want to, one, you would have to build it out. And listing stuff on our own website, especially initially, would take, oh my gosh, way longer than listing it on Amazon. And ultimately, we would get worse numbers too, because like we would want to be more competitive with price charting. And part of the reason that we sell on Amazon is to be able to get slightly above market numbers so that we can offer other people just slightly below market numbers and, you know, make the spread. So it would be a lot of work up front to sell online. And it also would mean that I have to plug it consistently. And I want to be very conscious of like right now we're plugging the buy list. Like we're trying to get the word out about it because I believe it's a really valuable service. I don't want to be the kind of channel that's like, check out our buy list and also join the Discord and also make sure to look at all of our new inventory on the online shop. And by the way, this video is sponsored by NordVPN, right? Like that's just, I want to limit myself to one big ask per piece of content because I feel like that's a decent ratio of like value given for free to the value that is asked for in return. I want people to always feel like, I mean, this video is probably going to be 20 plus minutes of like hopefully somewhat helpful or somewhat entertaining, absolute nonsense. I don't want this to be peppered through with a whole bunch of like, oh, you guys need to give me value in this way. This is a good question by Peter. How have YouTubers like Chase, like JRPG Life, Pixel Game Squad, and other game hunting / flipping channels impacted the video game market positively and negatively from a reseller and collector perspective? It's hard to deny that from a collector's perspective, it's made it harder to find stuff for super cheap. Like it just has. I'm not an excuse person. Like I think you need to look no farther than Pixel Game Squad. The fact that they find good video game and pop culture related stuff literally every single weekend at the same swap meet. Like, I think that just kind of puts a lot of excuses to rest. It is a really good swap meet, but I think you just need to find the thing that works for you. I think that people give a little bit too much credit to YouTubers for popularizing video game collecting and flipping. It definitely has had an impact, but I think what's had a bigger impact of people of like it's just harder to find video games for super cheap is just the rise of the internet and the information economy. Like, so I think that collecting stuff, especially like nostalgic games, is cool no matter what. But I think previously there was maybe more of a stigma that like if you're an adult and you're interested in children's items, you're probably maladjusted in some way. And I think that channels like that have shown that that just doesn't necessarily need to be the case. Rhino says, can we please put to rest the difference between scalper and reseller? We kind of covered that already. I think it has to do with the kinds of goods that you sell. Let me know if those parameters actually make sense, though. Why won't you give Riff a raise, Jojo? Jojo, you silly, silly man. I'm pretty sure this is a joke. Fairly sure that Jojo's joking here. But the number of people that I have come up to me at conventions and tell me in earnest, like not in a jokey way, hey, you should give Riff a raise, he's really worth it. And then I'll inevitably ask them, oh, okay, do you know how much he gets paid now? Well, no, but I just think he's worth more. So he could be making $100,000 a video and you would still think that he needs a raise? Well, no, right? I'm only slightly triggered. Ask Riff if you see him in person who his best paying client is. Normally I would never say that in public, but some people actually have thought as a result of our memeing on each other that he's underpaid. And I don't like people believing that because it's important that the people who work with me are financially taken care of. I try to structure things so that... Anyway. What's the point in collecting games that you're never going to play? A shelf full of cases seems like an odd thing to want. That's pretty controversial. This, I'm going to pair this with another very controversial thing that was asked, which is, I can't find the specific one. Am I going to resell the Switch collection like I did the GameCube collection? I actually kind of want to find that. Okay, yeah, New England Hustler asked, are you going to sell the Switch collection when you're done like you did with the GameCube collection? And here's the thing, a lot of people that ask me that don't realize that I didn't sell the GameCube collection. I sold less than half of the GameCube collection, and what I sold was the games that I knew I never wanted to play. The number of people... I'm starting to get a little triggered again. This is what happens on ReXP Sale when we talk about these hot issues. The number of people who will talk to me, not just in the comments, but actually in person and say oh man, I just wish you hadn't sold the GameCube collection. And I'll say so did you watch that video? And do you know how much of it I actually sold? Well, no, I just was on Reddit and I saw blah, blah, blah. So many people saw the title or went on Reddit and formed their opinions based on that and don't know that I kept most of it. I kept most of it. And part of the reason that I sold part of it is that I actually do believe that it's better for the general game collecting community and better for my basement not getting super cluttered and better for my bank account to not have a whole bunch of games that I'm never going to play sitting on a shelf. I don't believe in that. I feel much more at peace and more zen when I don't have more stuff around me than necessary. So for multiple reasons, I don't really believe in this whole notion of you're not really a collector if you sometimes sell stuff. I think that's kind of myopic and silly. So I hope that kind of answers both questions. Oh, it didn't specifically answer for the Switch case or the Switch collection. I would guess that at the end of that series, I will go through a process of actually analyzing, okay, based on the games that I've played and may or may not have liked, and based on the games that I now own but may or may not have an interest in playing in the future, I will almost certainly sell some. The difference will be I will not make a YouTube video about it this next time because it has not been worth the drama. I can't believe, that was 2 years ago at this point, and people are still bringing it up. This is crazy. So that wasn't worth it. I'm not someone to shame people. If you've got a huge collection and you know you're never going to play 90% of it, do you? I don't really care that much. If someone asks my advice, I would say, take the Marie Kondo approach. Figure out what games actually spark joy for you and sell the rest so that you have money to, go hunt and do fun things and buy games that you are more excited about. Or do something cool like pay off debt. Or save for a car, or awesome things like that. The whole idea of, shaming someone that, you have to keep a game for a period of time before you sell it, or else you never really wanted it in the first place, that's a little bit silly to me. The only thing that does disturb me a little bit about the people who criticize me for selling stuff is that, hey, people were only giving you discounts because they thought that you were going to keep it in your collection forever. The reason that doesn't actually keep me up at night is the people who sold me stuff during the GameCube Gambit are pretty much all well-adjusted adults, and they don't really care what I do with my GameCube games. They're not giving me discounts with strings attached. And also, I think the biggest, there were times that I actually insisted on paying full market price for stuff. If I'm dealing with a store owner or something like that, I'll probably, elbow them a little bit and try to get maybe 20% off or something like that. But I've said publicly multiple times that if anyone gave me a discount during the GameCube Gambit and felt in any way cheated by the fact that I flipped it later, to let me know and I'll pay you back double. Because that's just, I don't like the idea of that. And surprise, surprise, no one's reaching out. Because these are adults who don't care about, losing $20 on a game. Because that's also not a good business model. Getting a 20% discount to hopefully sell for, 105% minus 15% fees. That's not something that we do for profit around here. Am I at the end of this triggering controversial question line? I think this video has been long enough and I've exposed a little bit too much of my soul to the general public. If you guys have any other controversial hot topics, put them in the comments of this video and I'll try to make another one of these. Let me know if you are interested in seeing that. I'm going to try to also do more informative, like educational kind of stuff on this channel because of the feedback that I got on our $2 million video. Apparently people are really enjoying that and just seeing kind of more thought processes on how to build a business and like optimize your own situation. I got to get back to